When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything!
Blog Talk Radio.
You know what time it is. Time to hang out with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. The latest scoop. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. Hang with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. The latest scoop. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper.
Welcome to the Big Scoop with Coop. I'm your host, Coop. Season 5 still going strong, people. Make sure you do go tell your family, friends, associates, and haters. Make sure they tune in to blogtalkradio.com/The Big Scoop with Coop. Also, make sure you do go to the website, www.thebigscoopwithcoop.com, where you can catch episodes from Season 1 all the way to Season 5. Also, guys, make sure you do follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MCOOP317. Also, guys, make sure you all have a safe and happy holidays. Make sure you do actually drive careful. If you're on those roads going to and from, make sure you pay attention. Drive careful. No texting and driving, guys. Make sure you don't do that. We got to make sure that you come home and make it to your destination safely at the same time, guys. Also, I'm still waiting, people. If you have anyone that you would like to actually come on the show, once again, let me know who it's going to be, and I will get them on the show also. One of the main reasons I am on today, just to let everyone know that Season 5, there's a few episodes left for Season 5, and then it will be coming to an end. But make sure you do tell everyone to go check out the latest and the greatest shows, and I want to say that I appreciate everyone that actually has came through, listen to the show. I want to show appreciative for this. But enough about me, guys. I just want to let you know today's guest on the show, he has done so many things in the comedy world. HBO One Night Stand. He has a book coming out. It's actually called Kicking Through the Ashes. 80s and 90s legend. He has done it. If I say he has done it, I mean he has really done it. And I guarantee that some of you have seen his work. I believe 99.9% have seen his work, especially if you actually been watching television, if you haven't been under a rock. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce him because I know he is a busy man, and I don't want to hold up too much of his time. So I'm just going to say it like this. Thank you once again for coming on this show. Mr. Ritch Shydner, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, sir.
Yes. How's your day so far?
So far, it's pretty good. After listening to that introduction, I think I can go back to sleep. That's a pretty darn good. I mean, that's a day. That's a whole thing right there, man. Before we start the show, I want to say thank you very much for everything that you have done in this that you have done. As far as it goes for the comedy world, you have done so much, and this book, I think everyone's ready to hear about also. But on the show, we do talk about how you started in your career, your success, give advice on how to actually get into your career, and much more. So we're going to start from the beginning. Ritch, when did you first realize that you wanted to be a comedian? I guess the first time I did it was in Washington D.C. and a friend of mine thought I was funny. I thought I was funny, so he took me down to a place to see if anybody else thought I was funny.
And I believe it
was a coffee house. It was a place called the Iguana Coffee House on Thomas Circle. It was in the basement of a church. The famous coffee house with Roberta Flack started singing there. There were people who had gone through it, but by the time I got there, it was just a bunch of burnout hippies trying to outlast disco.
Wow.
And
I did my first show there, and I started doing it going around D.C. There were no comedy. It was 1977.
Oh.
So I would just go around the place and talk my way onto a show. I had a friend that had a band. When the band would take a break, I'd go on stage and try to do comedy. I started getting work as an opening act. So a lot of the work, and you'll appreciate this, I think. A lot of the work was in front of jazz bands. There's a place called the Blues Alley, Cellar Door, and I would get work for like opening for Tony Williams or Mose Allison or whatever. And so I was just starting out. So I'd be, I was a white guy from a small town. I had not even had an experience in front of all black audiences. And one of my friends in law school came to see me perform one night, and she was a black law student. I was a white law student, and we were friends. And she said, it'd be funny to say. And I go, what? She goes, when you go on stage, just say, I know what you're thinking, there goes the neighborhood. I mean, she wrote that joke for me.
Are you serious?
She wrote that joke. No, I'm serious. So the next time I went on stage in front of an audience was almost all black, I said that line. They broke up laughing. I did exactly the same act I was bombing with before. They got laughs. I mean, it just broke the ice. It just showed me if you recognize your truth and the truth of the situation right off the bat, the audience will go, okay, just say the truth of the situation. And the audience relaxed and I relaxed and everything got okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know what?
So that's how I started. You get help. You get help along the way, and you got to learn your lessons.
That's so true. That is so true. And you know what? And I think you actually brought the new definition of breaking the ice, because that's what you did. Seriously.
Yeah. I didn't know it, but I was smart enough to know what she said was genius. I was smart enough to know that'll work. I get that why that'll work. I mean, she knew why it would work. She knew it. She wouldn't have said it. She didn't say it by accident. She knew. She was a smart woman. So I just was smart enough to go, you're a smart woman, and that'll work. And it worked. And that's what I would do. I would use that line it was hilarious.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
And Rich, the comedy world has changed.
Yeah.
It's changed from we can even take it back to the 70s. It's changed from the late 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up to now. Now, compared to now to back then, what type of obstacles did you have to go through, to actually receive a successful career in the showbiz for being a comedian?
Yeah. Well, people weren't familiar with it. This is why when I wrote this book, I called it, everybody else has called it the comedy boom, because I did a number count from 1979, the amount of stand-up comics in America at the top, from the top down, from like Richard Pryor and Steve Martin and Robin Williams down to the bottom. There were about 400 stand-up comics in the whole country. There are 400 stand-up comics in Toledo, Ohio now.
That's all I'm about to say.
So there weren't a lot of stand-up. So there weren't places to go do it. I was in Washington, D.C. There weren't any places. People didn't know you were going to. When I came out to be an opening act, sometimes, even if the person introducing me remembered to say comedian, I'd walk out, people going, what's this guy going to do? He's got no instrument in his hand. He's got no guitar. He's got no saxophone. What's he going to do? What's he just walking out to the mic to do? Is this like one more roadie going to adjust it? They just introduced me. They wouldn't even know what I was doing. People weren't that familiar with the concept of a stand-up comic. I mean, people saw it. People were around. But there wasn't like today where everybody has somebody in their family. It's like gay. Everybody has somebody in their family who's gay. Everybody has someone in their family who does stand-up comedy.
Right. And that is true. And it seems like that back in the day, like you said, it was 400 of you worldwide or nationwide. And look at now, it seems like anybody they hear a good knock-knock joke, they think they can jump on stage and just tell jokes as well to actually make the whole world crumble.
Yeah, you would. Andy Evans was a comic, black comic. He was a Vietnam vet. I met him back then. He was starting to do it too, in D.C. So there weren't a lot of times where you could even see comics on TV, right, or see them live. Was so desperate. So Franklin Ajayi was opening up for Donny Hathaway at the Cellar Door.
Mm-hmm.
We just both showed up. Didn't tell each other we were showing up. We just showed up because you got to see any stand-up comic that was around. You had to go see them. They just weren't around a lot to see, to watch, to learn how to do this.
Oh, wow.
And Franklin Jai was so cool, man. He just said, we walked up to him, as he was moving from, they had to go outside to go back inside. They had to go outside from the dressing room to walk into the club. And so we kind of bushwhacked him, And he was like, listen, guys, I got to do this show, but I'll talk to you afterwards. And he let us hang out with him between shows and after the show. And, we were pestering him. I know, we had probably asked him a million questions, but he slowed us down with some fine weed. And, it was a good time. The guys were great to each other. There weren't a lot of people around, so everybody was good to each other.
Right. It was like you had your own tribe. I guess that's the best way to
exactly.
put it.
Right. Yeah, even though he didn't know us, it's like, as soon as you say you were doing stand-up comedy back then, you're like, oh, you're I don't meet many people like you, especially on the road or whatever, so let's talk.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm talking about. And I believe back then, when it was just very few of you all, it was easier to get along. And I believe it was easier to communicate because you're like, oh, we're a breed that's rare compared to everyone else. And it was easier to make friends. And today, like you said, you might find 400 comedians on one part of a state by itself, not even counting the other half of the state.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And that's why I congratulate you on Ritch. You actually went through so many different eras of comedy.
Yeah.
And look what you've done. You're a legend. You definitely are.
Yeah.
That's what you are. Now, Ritch, since you was talking about meeting people for the first time and everything, did you have any mentors that helped you along the way in your career?
Well, a lot of people that gave you advice along the way. I wouldn't say there was one person, a mentor. I got advice from Rodney Dangerfield. I got advice from So Rodney he had a club and I worked it, late night like a lot of comics did back then, and hung around there to watch the older comics working, the guys who would come through there to work, He had all those old guys who would come through. So even Red Fox, of course, Jackie Mason, all those guys would come into these clubs. You watched them, and then if you're lucky afterwards, you could sit around and listen to them talk in the bar. Just sit on the outside of the circle.
Nice.
Fly on the wall, listen to them talk. And so the guys, I got advice in that way. I got advice from Phyllis Diller. She gave me a lot of advice. I became friends with her. And then there was guys along the way you could talk to, Steve Martin or Robert Klein, that would give me advice.
Wow. So out of all the people that you've met early in your career and everything, who would you say the top 3 comedians that gave you the best advice for your career? Who would you say that would be?
Well, it'd be, Phyllis Diller, and that would be Steve Martin, and that would be Rodney Dangerfield. I put Klein up there too, but you're definitely Rod.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, in your opinion, though, Ritch, how have comedy or comedians changed from the 80s and 90s up to 2016? What would you say the big difference is?
There's so many more of them. George Burns once said that the comedic soul is eternal. Like, I don't think the personality of the comedian changes who they are. Like, you take a funny person, 100 years ago, they're the same kind of person they are today. The personality type. But everything, you got to go through it. I mean, look, we didn't have to worry about publicity and back in the comedy boom. The comedy clubs were packed. All you had to do was put your little 8x10 picture up on the door and say, here's who this week's monkey is. And the place was packed. They didn't care. They were coming up to see the comedy, not any particular person at first. And now, look at everything that comics have to do just to get noticed. Clubs won't book them unless they have so many Twitter followers. They got to have so many different. They're doing podcasts and so many different things just to try to get noticed, just to try to put their presence out there. And just to get work. It's so much harder for them to get work.
So true.
Yeah.
Do you feel that social media has actually messed up the comedians social media, it's easier path for people to get noticed, and you have to put in work different ways. But do you think social media has harmed the comedians or helped them out?
No, I never think it's – I think comics are better now than they ever been. I think the technology just changes the way comedy's done. It just changes. Like, before, and this is really old, but just an example, glaring example. In vaudeville, they didn't have electronic amplifiers. So there wasn't any microphone with a loudspeaker. People had to basically yell their acts to get the whole theater to hear them. So comics tend to be loud and brash, move around a lot. And then they got electronic amplification, and comics could start getting a little bit more quiet and conversational and talking to the mic without yelling. They could start doing impersonations of people. So comedy changed because of the technology. So I just think the comedy changes because of the technology. So comics who do these YouTube videos, they're able to get they do a YouTube video differently than they would do live stand-up, right? They can get known for the YouTube video.
That's true.
I just think it's different. Yeah.
That's very true. Now, Rich, for the people that's listening worldwide right now, I know a lot of your fans are listening right now, but for the people that's just, if it's like the younger generation that's listening right now, besides, I will name one, but the question is, could you tell some people some of the shows and some of the things you had the honor to actually grace your presence on? One in particular I remember was that HBO special, that One Night Stand. That was funny to me.
Yeah, I did the One Night Stand. We were supposed to do it in San Francisco in '89. They had the earthquake there, so they moved it to Chicago. And I did it at the same time. The great, they talk about legendary, Robin Harris. We had the same agent, so we hung out. And he died there in Chicago after the night he did the United Center. He did he did his One Night Stand, and then he stayed there. 2 nights later, he did the United Center. 5,000 people came out to see him. Wow. Word of mouth, man. I mean, he hadn't done anything much more than, he was just word of mouth. He was getting huge. He was going to be huge. Robin Harris was going to be huge. Everybody knew it. So I did those, HBO special. I did the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. I did David Letterman. I did Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I wrote for TV shows like Roseanne. I performed on Married with Children. I was Al Bundy's co-worker the first 8 episodes. So I did a lot of things. I did everything I was supposed to do, Michael. Everything I was supposed to do, I did. Can't blame me for not becoming a big star. I did everything I was supposed to do, boss.
And you did. And you succeeded top 10. You really did. Now, I have one personal question I got to know, Rich. 89, when you did that HBO One Night Stand, do you remember before you came on the stage when you was introducing yourself? And I want to make sure I got this right. Please stop me if I'm wrong. You introduced yourself and you got a pie slapped in your face. Or it was
that was the you did a little video you did separately than the live performance, right? But I did. I got the pie slapped in my face. That's right. That was my idea. We were trying to do some other things and nothing was working. So I said, you got to, because we were at the studio, I said, get a pie. Just get a pie filled with whipped cream and slap me in the face and hit me with seltzer water. Like classic old comedy. So, yeah.
Now, even though you knew it was coming, did it still startle you in any type of way when you your first impact?
Yeah, I couldn't see it coming. You couldn't really see it coming because the lights are on you and the camera's there, and the woman, I think there was a woman that hit me with the pie, was right up to the side out of my vision. I couldn't really see it because I didn't know exactly when it was going to hit me.
And the reason why I asked that question, Rich, because if you go back and watch that video, when you first get slapped in the face with the pie, your head jerks back. And I'm like, Rich didn't see this coming. And then you get the water shot on you. I was like, there's no way you can not come.
It wasn't a fist, man, but it was a pie. But still, when something hits you in the face, you jerk back a little bit. Yeah. I guess I did. I have to go look at it again. That's great.
Yes. Do it. As soon as you get hit with a pie, your head jerks back. Even though your face is filled up, watch your head. You look like you're ducking a swing from Mike Tyson or something. That's what it looked like. But that was funny. It really was.
Yeah. Okay.
So how was it behind the scenes working? Even though you was on 8 episodes, how was it behind the scenes working on Married with Children with Al Bundy?
Well, I wrote it in the book. I put the story about it in the book that, I kind of stole the role from Michael Moy. He was there were 2 creators, Ron Levitt and Michael Moy. And Michael Moy's friend was sort of like penciled in to do the role, but I had such a good audition that Fox wanted me to do it. So I kind of stole it from him. So there was a little bit of tension with Michael Moy, but I got to tell you, man, Ed O'Neill was a champ, man. He was great. He was really cool to work with. He helped me a lot because I wasn't a great actor. I wasn't as experienced as he was, and he helped me a lot. And so I had fun. I was just getting the hang of it when they dropped my character. One day I went, hey, I think I can do this. The next day, well, you're not doing it anymore. So.
Wow.
But that's showbiz, brother. That's showbiz.
That's true. And that is so true. Now, Rich, everyone that's listening worldwide right now, I know they're ready to hear about this. Tell everyone about the book, Kicking Through the Ashes. Let everybody know about it.
Well, the book, I cover the whole 80s. I cover every aspect of stand-up comedy. Joke thievery, heckling, joke writing. I cover all the big names from that era, Robin Williams and Sam Kinison and Bill Hicks and Jay Leno. I cover names. I cover people who did comedy then and the stories about them. I have a lot of road stories and things that happened to television, shows that I did, Letterman or whatever, Carson. And my journey through that era. I just cover that one era. When I started in 77 and then when things blew up in 80 and then the crash in the early 90s of the comedy explosion. It just crashed in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Where can everybody find the book at?
Amazon.com. Amazon.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen worldwide, if you're listening right now, make sure you go to Amazon. Do not go right now because we're in the middle of the interview. After the show, go to Amazon. Order the book. Get the book, Kicking Through the Ashes. You have to read about this. Any young comedians is listening to this right now also. If you want to know how the true era started, make sure you get this book. Ritch tells all. He tells it all. Make sure you get it. You will hear about the comic legends, like you said, like Robin Williams and more. You'll hear about them on these shows. And also make sure you go to YouTube. Find his One Night Stand special. Find Married with Children. If you got the DVDs, there you go. You'll see him. I'm telling you, he's doing big things, and I believe there's more to come. Make sure you get that book, Kicking Through the Ashes. Yes.
Man, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Now, Ritch, are there any other projects that you're working on that you'd like to speak about?
Well, there's really nothing. I mean, I wrote an adaptation of Bill Maher's book, True Story, that he wrote years ago for a film for HBO, and then I'm writing a script on the first stand-up comic, about the first stand-up comic. But that's about it, man. I'm just, I still do stand-up. I love performing. But, I have no illusions that it's taken me, it's not, I'm trying to be a star or anything. This is my Circling the Drain tour, man. This is I'm just going to go until I drop. That's it. I'm just going to keep doing stand-up until I drop.
Now, are you willing to do this, Ritch? If the legends that are still alive, if they want to do like a reunion tour, would you jump on it?
Well, I'd jump on it. Of course I would. Of course I would, man. Of course.
I think that's something that needs to get together because I think some of the people that's just, the people that's like in their teens or their early 20s, I think they need to hear how the true comedians used to do it. And don't get me wrong, whoever's listening, Kevin Hart, all you guys, if you're listening right now, you guys are funny. But people made the path for y'all, paid the path for you. And
well, I guess you mentioned Kevin Hart. There are more guys doing more theaters now than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. There are more people, but there's no middle class. So if you can't put butts in the seats like a Kevin Hart or whoever, then you're bottom feeding. They're doing minimum wage for stand-up comedy. So it's a different era. No question, man. It's definitely more than ever, man. It's more than ever. Like the Kingdom or the Pauper, man. It's more than ever.
Have any of these young comedians came up to you and asked for any advice or anything?
Well, all the time. I have people contacting me all the time. I did this documentary, I Am Comic, when I came back in 2009, and people got my phone number off of that because we put it on there as a joke. And people call me. They still call me once in a while, and I talk to it. They're a young comic and they're interested to do it. The first time I'll tell you this story. And this was back in the early '90s, I guess. I can't remember exactly when, but I'm working. There was a DC comedy club called Comedy Cafe, and a friend of mine was waiting there, so I just came there to hang out with her. I'd finished doing a show another show, another place, and I came over there, and she was finishing up, and this young comic came up to me. He said, "Hey, man, I'm going to go on a minute. Would you watch me, man? I know who you are, you know, and would you watch me?" I said, "Yeah." And it was Martin Lawrence. And so he comes up after his show. You know, he did like 15 minutes or whatever at the end of the night. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Move to New York, man." He goes, "What?" I said, "You got it, man. You're like, you could see it." He was like one of those guys. Like the first time I saw Eddie Murphy. I mean, you're a natural. You're a natural. I mean, how much material you got? He was about 20 minutes. Is that enough? I go, "That's enough, man. Go to New York."
Wow.
Now, you know how many times I've told people like that around the country? I mean, I've told a lot of young comics, go to New York or go to L.A. or go to, you know, they'd be in some small town, or not, D.C. is not a small town, but it's, you know, it's not entertainment mecca. And they would not, I'd never hear from them again. So I gave him my number, and like a couple months later, he calls me up. He said, "I'm in New York now. I moved up here, man. I moved up here. I'm doing okay." I said, "Great, man. Good. You're glad you made the move." Then he calls me up again, and he says, "Hey, I made Star Search. I'm going to do Star Search. I'm coming out to L.A. Would you come do watch the show with me?" I go, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, go do the show. You know, watch him." He won like one or two, and then he lost.
Okay.
And he goes, "Oh, man, I feel terrible." Still feel terrible, man. This show ain't for you anyway. Star Search ain't for you. You're bigger than this show. And the next thing I know, you know, Robin Harris was supposed to host Def Jam. He was supposed to be the first host of Def Jam. And when Robin Harris died, when he died, that's when Martin Lawrence got the hosting job. The next thing I know, man, I see him on Def Jam. Boom, he's a big star. He's just, there's guys you see, you know, you just know. They just know they got it. They got it. You can see it in the first couple times they go on stage. They got it.
That's true. That's very true. Have you been in contact with Martin lately?
No. I haven't. Not a long time, man. No. Not a long time. He contacted me years ago. He was going to do a Rolling Stone magazine thing or something, and said he was going to mention me, the story about me seeing him and giving him advice or whatever, but I never heard anything more about it, and that was the last time I talked to him. That was years ago.
Okay, not a problem. Now, are you very active on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I'm as active as, I don't know. I don't push it like some people, that's for sure, but I'm kind of active, I guess, on Facebook. Okay.
So the people that's listening worldwide right now, how could people find you and follow you on social media to keep up?
Yeah, they can. I'm on Facebook, Ritch Shydner. It's RichShydner. They can find me on Twitter, same thing, at Ritch Shydner. I got a website, RichShydner.com. Those are the ways to find me. Pretty easy to get hold of.
Hey, there you go, guys. Make sure you follow him on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Make sure you go to check out the website. He don't have no crazy long name that's up there that makes you say, "What was the name again?" Look for it. Follow him.
Well, it was a difficult name, but the first guy who ever got smart with like just picking one name and getting like recognition for one name was Sinbad. He was the first guy that I went, "What?" I mean, you know, first time I worked with him was like, "What? Sinbad?" You know, you're not going to forget that name.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
How was Sinbad when you first met him?
Well, I was, as I said in the book, I wrote in the book, I was drinking and doing a lot of cocaine, and I was getting fat and angry, and he was just starting out, and he ran me, no middle act. I never had any problem following anybody. You know, I was pretty good up there. But Sinbad, he ran me hard, man. I had a hard time following him. He's one of the guys that woke me up to, like, maybe I should quit drinking and doing drugs, but I still want to do stand-up comedy because it wasn't working for me. But he was like, you know, he was pure. He was just pure. I mean, he's just drinking Coca-Cola, and he was killing up there. He was just one of those guys that, like, the material was almost like an afterthought. People just loved this guy. They just he just made them laugh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, Mr. Shydner, what would you say is your ultimate goal as a comedian?
Wow, I don't have any goals anymore, to tell you the truth, Michael. I just don't have. I mean, I had goals when I was younger. I wanted to be, you know, have a sitcom. I wanted to, you know, those things. I wanted to be in movies. Those things I wanted to do, and I did in small ways, right? But I had pilots that didn't get turned into sitcom, and I got little small roles and things. But I don't have that anymore. I just want to. Wherever I can go to perform and make people laugh or entertain them, I'll do it. But I have no more goals.
Okay. So you've accomplished everything in the comedy world that you.
I'm just, I'm 64, man. I'm 64. I mean, it's all the people my age. The kingdoms have been settled, man. The castles are built. Whoever's got them, man. You know what I mean?
Hey,
I'm like happy doing what I'm doing.
But you never know, Mr. Shydner. It may be the point where we will tease you back. That comedian not joke may not be as funny anymore. So
yeah, I was going to say if there's some sort of specific virus that attacks only comedians under the age of 64, I may become the biggest comic in America.
I like that. I definitely like that.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Shydner, I know you're a busy man, so I'm not going to hold you long. But what advice would you give any male or female that wants to become a comedian on stand-up or even in television or movies?
Well, my advice for any comic who wants to do stand-up is if you want to do it, you got to take a shot. You can't be somebody that turns 40 or 50 and says, I should have tried. I wish I had tried. If you're young and you think you want to do it, do it. Do it. Don't think twice. Just do it. And get up as many times as you can, all the time. Anywhere you can, any audience, get in front of an audience. I remember going out in Washington Square trying to do comedy in there. I mean, I'd go on the street. I was terrible on the street, but I'd try anywhere. I'd go anywhere. I went into pizza places and talked to them and let me do stand-up comedy while people are eating pizza. So go anywhere. Just do it. And now there's so many places to do it. You just got to do it. It's all a function of stage time. The more you get on stage, the better you get. That's all there is to it.
Hey, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's worldwide. You heard it here first, Mr. Ritch Shydner. Make sure, I said Schneider, Jesus. Shydner, make sure you do. And see, that's what I get for talking fast. I knew I could put that in.
Michael, do you know how many people have gotten my name wrong over the years? 99% get it wrong every time. You got it right every time but once, and even corrected yourself. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Myself. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen worldwide, make sure you do go follow him on Facebook, Twitter. Go get the book once again, Kicking Through the Ashes, Amazon.com. Check him out on YouTube. Check out his past shows. If you see him in the streets, say hello to him. Tell him how much of a legend he is. He'll get tired of hearing it, but still tell him. Make sure you do it. And
you're great, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. You're great. All right, man.
Thank you very much. I would love to have you back on in the future.
Anytime, Michael. Anytime, man. Thank you.
All right. Until the next time, everybody, on the Bit Scoop with Coop.
You know what time it is. Time to hang out with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Get the ladies Scoop. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Get the ladies Scoop. From Mr. Cooper. From Mr. Cooper.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can seem intense. Like breakup R&B intense.
I thought you said you loved the sweater that I got you. If you didn't, you could have told me.
Geico makes it easy. Just go to Geico.com anytime to update or check your policy without all the extra drama.
I even had a gift receipt.